Welcome to The Timeless Art of the Con, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on the long, deceptive history of human greed. While you might think modern digital fraud is a new phenomenon, many of today's most common scams have roots that date back thousands of years. The Hook, a history of deception. On this show, we explore how the craft of the swindler hasn't changed, even if the technology has. We'll take you back to ancient Mesopotamia, where a merchant named Ea Nasser was recorded on the world's oldest written complaint for selling substandard copper. We'll visit ancient Egypt, where tax collectors risked having their noses removed for inflating weights to skim profits for themselves. What to expect this season? Each episode we will dive into the most audacious schemes in history, including political heists, how the Roman Praetorian Guard once sold the rights to the Roman Empire to the highest bidder in 193 AD. Failed frauds, the story of Hegestratos, who attempted the first recorded insurance fraud in 300 BC by trying to sink his own ship, only to drown in the process. Classic street scams, the origins of the shell game and the pig in a poke, where buyers were tricked into buying a cat instead of a pig. The masters of the grift, from the 19th century Spanish prisoner scam, the original Nigerian prince fraud, to the fictional country of Poyais and the rise of the infamous Ponzi scheme. Join the investigation, from snake oil salesmen like Clark Stanley to the investment frauds of Sarah Howe and Charles Ponzi. We investigate why these archetypes continue to work on us today.
Welcome! So, we all like to think our world is more advanced than ever, right? But what if I told you that one of the biggest problems we face today, like online fraud, is actually ancient history? We're about to uncover the oldest tricks in the book and figure out why, after thousands of years, they still work on us.
No, I'm not kidding. That email promising you a fortune, or that online ad for a product that just seems way too good to be true, the basic DNA of that con can be traced back nearly 4 millennia. The technology has definitely changed. We've gone from clay tablets to fiber optics, but the scam itself, it's absolutely timeless.
So say hello to the world's oldest written complaint. Seriously, this little clay tablet was sent to a merchant named Ea Nasser way back in ancient Mesopotamia, and it details a classic bait and switch. A customer, this guy Nani, paid for high-quality copper but got a bunch of junk metal instead. It's literally the ancient equivalent of getting a knockoff from some sketchy online seller. This is the first proof we have that this is one of humanity's oldest frustrations. And that brings us perfectly to our first major category of con, the art of misrepresenting value. At its core, it's all about promising one amazing thing and then delivering something worth much, much less. This simple deception has been a scammer's absolute favorite for centuries. A perfect example of this is the pig in a poke. Back in medieval markets, a farmer would sell you a tasty little suckling pig all tied up in a bag, which was called a poke. You'd get it home, you'd open it up, and oops, you'd find out you'd actually been sold a worthless cat. And by the way, this is exactly where we get the phrase, letting the cat out of the bag, literally revealing the secret of the scam. Okay, let's fast forward to the 19th century. The con gets a brand new bottle, but it's the same old trick. You had snake oil salesmen like the famous rattlesnake king, Clark Stanley, who preyed on people's desperate hopes for a miracle cure, selling them bottles of totally worthless liquid. It's just a cat in a poke, but instead of a pig, you're being promised health and a long life. I mean, think about it. Selling bad copper, a cat in a bag, fake medicine. These are all pretty bold moves. But history shows us that scammers can think much, much bigger. What if you weren't just selling some small object?
You heard me right. Back in 193 AD, after the Roman emperor was assassinated, the elite Praetorian Guard just decided to auction off the throne of the entire Roman Empire. They had absolutely no legal right to do this, but hey, they had the swords, so they held an auction right outside the palace. The sheer scale of this is just staggering. A wealthy senator named Didius Julianus won the bid, promising 25,000 sesterces per soldier. So he bought an empire he couldn't possibly hold, and his reign lasted a whopping 66 days before he was executed. It was probably the biggest and definitely the shortest-lived bait and switch in history.
Okay, so not all scams are about selling you a shoddy product. Some sell you something that doesn't exist at all, a phantom fortune. This next category of con is what we call advance fee fraud. It preys on our greed with the promise of a massive payout. If, and it's a big if, you'll just pay a small fee first.
The classic version of this is The Spanish Prisoner. A con artist would send you a letter with this whole sob story about a rich nobleman who's been locked away in a Spanish prison. All he needs is a little cash to bribe the guards, and in return, he'll share his massive fortune with you. Of course, the prisoner, the fortune, and your money, all gone forever.
Does that sound familiar? It absolutely should. The Spanish Prisoner is the direct ancestor of the Nigerian prince Email. Just look at this comparison. The story is identical. A trapped nobleman becomes a trapped prince. A bribe becomes a transfer fee. A letter becomes an email. The script has not changed in over 150 years. It's crazy. And that leads us to our final category, the scams that go beyond just promising a reward and instead sell you a piece of an impossible dream. These are the big investment frauds, the schemes that build castles in the air and then get people to buy property there. This might just be the most audacious con of all time. So, in the 1820s, a Scottish adventurer named Gregor MacGregor comes back to London and declares himself the Prince of Poyais, a fictional, super resource-rich country he claimed to rule in Central America. He didn't just sell a story, he sold an entire nation. He sold land bonds on the London Stock Exchange, convincing hundreds of families to pour their life savings into this new paradise and set sail. But when they got there, they didn't find a paradise. They found nothing but a desolate, empty jungle. It was a complete and total fabrication, and tragically, many of the settlers die. Now, a more common and still devastating form of investment fraud is the Ponzi scheme. What makes it so sneaky is that it feels real for a little while. It works by using money from new investors to pay profits to the early ones. This creates this illusion of success that just sucks in more and more victims until the whole thing inevitably comes crashing down. And you know, while Charles Ponzi made it famous in 1920, he didn't actually invent it. Decades earlier, women like Sarah Howe were running very similar schemes. And today, the same exact model is thriving in everything from crypto markets to luxury real estate. The packaging changes, but the engine driving the fraud stays the same. So here's the really crucial point. From bad copper to a fake country to a fraudulent investment, we've seen the same core deceptions repeated over and over throughout history. The real question isn't just what are these scams, but why on earth are they so persistent? The reason these tricks never die is that they don't target our technology, they target our psychology. They tap into these fundamental human emotions. There's greed, that desire for a quick, easy fortune. There's hope, the belief in a miracle cure or that one lucky break. There's trust, our willingness to believe a really compelling story. And then there's urgency, that fear of missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. These aren't just feelings, they are predictable glitches in our mental software that scammers know how to exploit. And this really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We live in an age of artificial intelligence, of instant information. We can fact-check pretty much anything in seconds. And yet, the same basic scam written on a 4,000-year-old clay tablet is still landing in our inboxes every single day. So as our world gets smarter, why are we still falling for the oldest tricks in the book?